Hi, my name is Shakina Kadeem, and I've been a holistic healing helper for over 3 decades now, and I have a question for you. Do you know the organic food industry continues to grow into a multi-billion-dollar business every year, despite the fact that eating organically usually costs us a little bit more out of our pocketbook, but people like myself even, who may not consider themselves to be very rich, will still insist on buying organically grown foods or more wholesome, naturally grown food. In fact, the demand for organic foods has actually increased faster than the domestic supply. In this time and age, it's important for you to realize that what you don't know can hurt you. So in the next section of this video, I will be reading from a book titled No Denial, and it was published in 1991 by a man named Neil Cohen and Taryn, Riffey. They researched, wrote this book in an effort to inform the public, and they've done a great job. Some of the resources at the end I did have to research to get up-to-date information, and a lot of the companies back then didn't have websites, so I found the website information for you, and let's get on with the show. As human beings, we partake of a variety of fruits, vegetables, and grains to nourish ourselves with vital nutrients necessary for our health and well-being. Unfortunately, these foods may also contain dangerous pesticides which threaten our health. Considering the fact that dangerous pesticide residues in our nation's food supply can rarely be seen, smelled, or tasted, it is doubtful that the old adage, "What you don't know can't hurt you," could be applicable to this subject. At times, it would be understandable if one wanted to bury their head in the sand, choosing not to think about the 2.5 billion pounds of pesticides now used each year on agricultural crops, golf courses, in forests, ponds, and lakes, in city parks, and in our own homes and yards. It is terrifying to think that many of our pesticides in our food supply were originally developed for chemical warfare. When World War II ended, those chemicals originally designated for warfare found their peacetime use in being marketed as, quote, safe, unquote, pesticides. The production of synthetic pesticides in the U.S. increased dramatically after World War II. In the 1940s and 1950s, pesticides were promoted as the greatest answer to world famine and plague. Quite a marketing scheme. Some of the most dangerous and toxic chemicals became common household words and were used in our homes, gardens, and in the nation's food supply. These were chemicals such as aldrin, DDT, chlordane, and dieldrin. The pesticides put into our soil and onto our foods are destroying the land, eroding precious topsoil, and the beneficial living organisms within it, poisoning our water supplies by chemicals washing off agricultural land, polluting the air, and are seriously affecting the health and well-being of animal and human life. Farm workers in California, where pesticide use is greater than anywhere in the world, have the highest rate of occupational illness. DDT was banned from large-scale use in the United States in 1972, and traces of this chemical are still found in mammals' milk, sperm, fat cells of the body, the sediments of lakes, rivers, and harbors, and in fish. Pesticide residue has been found present in all creatures of the earth, from penguins in Antarctica to the milk of nursing mothers in the United States. Inestimable damage is done to our biosphere from the use and presence of these toxic chemicals. You may find it interesting to note that even though farmers now spend almost $1 billion per year on chemicals, damage from insects, disease, and weeds has increased by 40%. As consumers, we are not adequately protected from unsafe pesticide residues. The Food and Drug Administration, FDA, samples only about 1% of our food supply. Its routine testing can only detect about 1/2 of the pesticides that may be present in our food. In addition, there are so many delays in the FDA laboratory testing of food that by the time illegal pesticide contamination of food is detected, the food will probably have been sold and consumed. The Environmental Protection Agency's EPA pesticide program came under examination by the Government Accounting Office at the request of Congress. It was found that the EPA has failed to evaluate the safety of a major portion of the chemical pesticides presently in use. We still don't know the health and environmental risks of roughly 50,000 pesticides presently in use today. Did you know that companies are allowed to export deadly pesticides banned in the US, Canada, and Europe to developing countries for use in their export agriculture? That means these carcinogenic pesticides still generate profit from their sales and then return to the United States on imported foods which end up on our dinner plates. Another vital concern is how these pesticides affect our children. Children are especially susceptible to the hazards of pesticides. They are vulnerable to carcinogens, substances which cause cancer, and neurotoxins which can harm the nervous system. The younger the child is, the more susceptible they will be to carcinogens. The average child receives 4 times more exposure than an adult to 8 widely used carcinogenic pesticides in food. A large percentage of the current preschool population may be exposed to neurotoxic pesticides at levels above what the government considers safe. According to Mothers and Others for Pesticide Limits, the Environmental Protection Agency did not take children's eating habits into account when they established virtually all current legal limits of pesticide residues in food. The EPA has relied on estimates of adults' food consumption for the majority of pesticide residue limits now in effect. This is alarming since children actually eat proportionately more food per body weight than adults, so they consume more pesticide residues. Mothers and Others for Pesticide Limits have compiled the following list of some of the most dangerous pesticides posing the greatest threat for children, and obviously adults as well. Diaminozide, also known as ALAR, its use has supposedly been halted and sales banned in the U.S., but overseas sales of ALAR continue. Beware, up to 50% of the apple juice concentrate sold in this country is made with foreign apples. Diaminozide is sprayed on apples and other fruits to improve their appearance, increase their shelf life, and make harvesting easier. Diaminozide, also known as ALAR, breaks down into UDMH when the fruit is processed into products such as applesauce and apple juice. UDMH is a potent carcinogen. Mancozeb, a fungicide used primarily on tomatoes, potatoes, and apples. During processing, it breaks down into ETU, which is carcinogenic and otherwise highly toxic. Captan, a carcinogenic fungicide used on strawberries and other fruits. Methamidophos, parathion, methylparathion, and diazinon. All of these are organophosphate insecticides that can cause nervous system damage. This is only a small sampling of the hazardous pesticides and other chemicals being used on the foods that we eat. If they pose a threat to our children, it is certain they are dangerous for all human and animal life on the planet as well. Every time we purchase commercial produce or products made from commercially grown ingredients, we are supporting the present agricultural system and its environmentally destructive growing practices. The first step for protecting ourselves from pesticides used in our food supply and letting our actions be felt is to purchase organically grown food whenever possible. When food is marked, quote, organic, it means it was grown without the use of synthetic fertilizers, pesticides, herbicides, or growth regulators. When you buy organically grown food, you are respecting your own health, the health of your family, and supporting the health of our environment. You will help to prevent soil erosion and to preserve the natural ability of farmlands to produce nutrient-rich foods for our future. Furthermore, when you buy organic, you are exercising your power as a consumer, showing farmers that food contaminated with toxic pesticides is completely unacceptable. Though there are some differing opinions on the subject, organic food is far more nutritious and better tasting than commercially grown, pesticide-laden food. After one has eaten organically grown foods for only a short time, this fact becomes obvious. Buying organically grown foods is worth the extra effort and the small extra expense. It is reassuring to know that ever-increasing numbers of commercial farmers and growers are switching to organic farming methods. They are finding it beneficial to make this switch because of the nation's growing demand for organic produce, the money saved from eliminating the use of chemical pesticides, and the satisfaction which comes from producing a healthy product without adding to the destruction of the biosphere. In California alone, organic food production has gone from $20 million business to $100 million business in only 4 years, and it is still continuing to grow. Things you can do to make a difference. 1. Buy organically grown food whenever possible. Talk to the managers at your local health food stores and supermarket chains and request organically grown produce. When organically grown foods are continually requested and purchased, it becomes more worthwhile for the farmers to produce it and the markets to buy and sell it. 2. Shop in local farmers markets. They usually offer produce at lower prices, and much of it is organically grown. 3. Experience the joy of growing some of your own food by cultivating an organic garden. If you do not have the space for a garden, check out cooperative gardens in your area or use part of your lawn. You can also use 5-gallon buckets to do container garden. 4. Supplement your diet with easy to grow and super nutritious indoor greens and sprouts. 5. Write to U.S. senators, representatives, and federal government, elected officials, the Environmental Protection Agency, and the Food and Drug Administration, urging them to provide farmers with financial assistance and other incentives to switch to safer, low-pesticide farming techniques. Farming techniques such as organic farming and integrated pest management have been used successfully for years and could significantly reduce the dangerous pesticides in the country's food supply. 6. Write a letter to your representatives in Congress asking that pesticides banned in the United States not be exported overseas. 7. Mothers make it a point to buy organic baby foods for your children, or even better, make your own baby foods from organic ingredients. 8. Check produce labels to see if it is imported from another country. Imported produce will usually contain higher pesticide residues than domestically grown produce. This is because the U.S. sells many of the pesticides banned in this country to third world countries, who then sell that produce back to us. It is also helpful to remember that peaches, strawberries, and cherries are sprayed for cosmetic purposes and may contain substantially higher pesticide content than any other produce. 9. Homeowners are responsible for using 85 million pounds of pesticides per year. There are many efficient ways to tend your lawn and garden without adding to the chemical pollution and destruction of our earth. Please care enough to educate yourself in regards to natural alternatives for toxic pesticides. We must not be lazy, taking the easy way out with one simple step or techno-fix products. Check local bookstores and your library for organic gardening books and magazines, and books that stress and offer alternatives to pesticides or harmful chemicals in your household. One such book is a book titled Non-Toxic and Natural, written many years ago. There are many more. I believe that particular book has a new name now, but there are many books out there that provide you with alternatives and formulas to make your own. Thank you. For further information, you may contact the following organizations: The websites shown on your screen are a current, as of August 2016, listing. They include urban farming groups, organic farms, CSAs or community-supported agricultural groups, wherein you can find a wide variety of community services offered, including gardening and farming supplies. Thank you. Peace be with you.